All right, so this week's topic is Vietnamese American gangs, and really is about Vietnamese American as model minorities and education in the United States. Now, first, what is the model minority? Now, some of you have probably studied this before, others might not have, but the model minority is a positive stereotype. Let me say a positive stereotype of Asians being good students, good in math, good in sciences, and and it might seem like a good thing, right? Because it's a positive stereotype. And it started after World War II. In the 1960s, a sociologist, William Peterson, he looked at Japanese Americans and he wanted to explore how they're doing after World War II because they were heavily racialized during World War II in terms of being interned and facing anti-Japanese sentiments. Now, what he argued was that within one generation, Japanese Americans post World War II were able to succeed, and they were able to succeed educationally and socially and economically because of their family values, of their work ethics, of their diligence. Um, you know, and so this proves that America is not a racist society because a group of people that were targets of racism have now just mated, right? And they mated because their culture uh, is their culture values education and communicates to them that hard work and respect for family will help you succeed. And so many have used this model minority stereotype to critique other ethnic groups, other people of color, for not being able to make it. For example, Latinos and African Americans and indigenous Native American Indians. And they say they are not able to make it not because American society is racist, but because there's a cultural pathology, a sickness in their culture. They don't value education. They don't have strong families. They don't have a work ethics, and they don't support their kids in school. And we all know that that's not true and that that's not right. So shortly after the article by William Peterson came out about Japanese Americans, Newsweek, the magazine, had another article that said the same thing about Chinese Americans. And the thing that Chinese and Japanese share in common is Confucian kind of cultural family structures and cultural family values. And so over time, it has been applied to Koreans, Filipinos, and all other Southeast Asian groups who have come to the US. Now, even though the second wave, now remember from last week, the second wave refugees, when they came, they had limited resources because of the recession and because of budget cuts. And so their integration to society was a lot tougher and a lot harder. And remember, they also came with fragmented families, meaning they didn't have that kind of family support. So many of the second wave refugees did not do well in school and did join boys and girls gangs. And they joined gangs and created gangs because they were confronted with other ethnic gangs, Latino and Black gangs, where they were in these urban areas. And but the problem with the model minority stereotype, positive stereotype, is that it says, well, all Asians are graduating, all Asians are doing well in school, all Asians don't have problems. So when you do this, we ignore the need of a huge sector of Vietnamese Americans, as well as Cambodians, Lao, Laotians, and Hmong refugees, and Filipinos as well. We ignore their needs and in terms of educational equity and educational justice. And so the issue of Vietnamese gang is real. and you read about them today. Um, but it is being ignored because of the stereotype that all Asians do well in school, that is illustrated by the mono-minority thesis. Now, again, 2 points to have you think through is one, how this model minority racial stereotype is used to pit ethnic groups and racial minorities against each other. As I mentioned before, Blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians um, are pitted against Asians. And to suggest that American society is merit-based and that with hard work anyone can make it, and that ignores the history of discrimination and violence on Native, Black, and Indigenous and Latino communities, and the racial hierarchy that develops that limits their access to healthy communities and educational resources. And the problem with lumping all Asian American groups together, and how that ignores each specific group's needs. And for Vietnamese being lumped in with the earlier groups of Asian migrants from 1840s to 1965, it places them at a disadvantage. Uh, and these are things that will need to be corrected and has yet been resolved.